AfterTrek or post-show. And so here I am, supposed to be acting all upbeat and things and be excited and let you know about some stuff that's coming up, like the charity event that the Anti-Trekker and I are doing and will be doing in the near future, partnered with WizKids Attack Wing from Star Trek. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing some videos about it, raising money for sick kids, so that's always a fun thing. Don't forget to check me out at twitter.com/lore reloaded, as well as facebook.com/lore reloaded. Really excited. Got a lot of people joining me there. Plus, if you disagree with me, definitely go there and complain, because I don't care. So I'm going to go ahead and set this out before I start saying hello to people and we get all of that out of the way. There has been a lot of people who are critical of how we look at the show, that we have too much of a critique, that we're too negative on it. And if that's an issue, if you have any kind of issue with that, or you don't want to see spoilers, this show is not for you. You need to leave immediately. I, in fact, had to get all of the cursing out of my system before I came on here, because that's not what this show is. But just imagine I wanted to look up and curse the show, the producer, the writers, just anybody that slighted me. So if you like this show, or you come here to see someone just get down on all knees and talk about how it's just the bastion of great Trek, you're in the wrong place. With that out of the way, I have the illustrious Anti-Trekker with me. Anti-Trekker, with the... not talking about the show, beyond that, how you doing, good sir?
My head hurts.
Yeah. Yep.
I think, now, I did a review of Who Watches the Watchers, and I mentioned at the end of that review that I feel like I lost 10 IQ points after watching that episode. After watching tonight's episode of Star Trek Discovery, I think that I'm definitely in the special needs category now with my IQ.
Yeah. So, yes, Robert Wilk, it is going to be that kind of show. You can leave now if you don't want to watch that kind of show. But while we're here, what's going on, Kit Coyote, Captain Jesse 1, 14 K Leum, Xavier Gamer, John Braddock, Jonathan Stevie, Captain Jesse 1, Robert Wilk, who I just said, Mr. Pete in the house, as well as Jeremy Heary. All right, so let's go ahead and bust into it. Just to let you guys know, mid-season finale to last episode. I said this, and I meant it. If you are a Trek fan, then you should definitely go ahead and pay for 1 month of CBS and binge it, because you might like it. It really had a rough start. It was horrible, but it was getting better. It was doing a lot better. I could see it going well. It looked like it was going the way of most other Trek. That the first season always has rough bumps, and then it kind of smooths out. And then the writers, I guess, just decided to say, to hell with that. Let's go ahead and make sure that we go overly political, do scenes that make absolutely no sense, and basically ruin it for everyone, unless you happen to be ultra political on one side, who will then, at that point, love it. Of course, CNN makes its money off that, so who am I to say that that is a bad proposition? Let's just get into it. So it starts out with the first scene. We do go scene by scene, so some people don't enjoy that. Just don't watch. So we start with the first scene. It did start out a lot better for me, very promising, I thought, in that we have Lorca who's freeing his people, and he's getting them all roused up. He showed his cockiness. I did enjoy the first scene itself, especially when it comes to, his people where they were beat up, but you could tell that hope was there. And you even had one of the person who came back who was like, they told us you were dead, and he laughed and said, "You believe me?" I mean, from the first part of the episode, or the first 3 minutes until they started horrendously doing it, I had hope. How about yourself, Michael? Where are you going with that?
Well, first of all, and Mr. Pete was asking about, I think you meant CBS, not CNN.
Yeah, probably.
But the oh man, the initial stuff with Lorca freeing the people from the agonizer booths and stuff. Yeah, I was on board. I was thinking, okay, we're gonna have some kind of confrontation. And I think that the moment that all hope for me was dashed that this was going to be a good episode came a couple minutes later in the throne room scene. I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute. But the initial stuff with Lorca I was okay with.
Sure. And just to address kind of what Rick says, it wasn't even the girl power, which I expected. But it wasn't even that. But we'll get more into it. So yeah, they go from the agonizer booth, then they go to find Stamets. Again, I'm liking this part of it, at least. It seems very promising because he's getting everything together. He's using his brain to try to outsmart them. And, Stamets being the universe, mirror universe Stamets, being very weaselly, being very slippery, changing sides very easily, I thought was interesting, even funny. Trek Yards called it, but he did use a toxin to kill most all of the people, which I saw it coming, and I didn't expect anything else. Were you on the same page? Were you surprised when he killed everybody? He killed most all of the legions. There's 10 legions, which right. I also liked that. I liked how they said legions, how they went back to this Roman rise, that maybe the Roman Empire didn't fall. I thought that was intriguing.
Well, I didn't have a problem with. I mean, I figured he had to have something like that up his sleeve as far as. The simple fact that obviously this is the Imperial flagship, even though I think the existence of the Imperial flagship is stupid, given that they needed a way to neutralize the fact that they were outnumbered hundreds to one. And so they came up with a reasonable explanation for why Lorca's small group of people could possibly take over the ship. And now I assume we're going now into the flashback here, since that's what I see on the screen, where he talks about how he got to the Prime Universe in the first place.
Right.
And I liked that. And I'll tell you why, is that, and this is something that I've always been a stickler, and one of my big criticisms of Discovery is how it abuses established canon. However, in the Mirror, the original episode to feature the Mirror Universe, it was an ion storm that caused the transporter malfunction. However, that had Kirk, Uhura, and Scotty switch universes. And in the flashback, it was an ion storm that got Lorca, while he happened to be in the transporter, probably switching places with Good Lorca, which means Good Lorca was on his ship in the middle of the Battle of Binary Stars, and then all of a sudden, or wherever it was that his ship was destroyed, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, where am I? And then he's dead.
Yeah, I like that too. I was going to ask you about that. It's unfortunate because chances are Prime Universe, Lorca's dead because he would be on the ship when it got destroyed. And it did do the, it did stay in the continuity and everything. So, I mean, there's really nothing more to it than that. I do agree with you there. I hate that we lose Lorca on all sides, probably. By the way, Zen Monk is not your friend. He said that it was a good episode. Zen Monk doesn't like you, and he doesn't care about your safety or your health if he tells you that. So, moving forward, so this is a sad part, though, because, again, it probably means we're not going to see Lorca at all, ever again, which is unfortunate, unless it's like a flashback.
No, I think we'll see him again.
Oh, because of your thing. Well, we're going to say that at the end. We're going to save that till the end. But let's get to the throne room scene, which was unfortunate. So you have Michael, who's talking with Georgiou, with Philippia, and they're going over the options, right? And if I remember correctly, this episode really has me frustrated. She wants to, talk to her ship. She needs to let them know something's going on. The Emperor says, well, that's not going to happen. We're actually going to throw you in a jail cell because that makes all the sense. I'm not going to kill you like I originally did. We're just going to throw you in a brig because that makes a ton of sense. We're not going to warn the Discovery, which could help us out because that makes a ton of sense. Of course, Georgiou isn't Michael, so she can't think through all of these things because she's a simpleton. Simpleton in compared to Michael. But of course, she is incredibly smart compared to her counterpart like Lorca. And so Michael decides, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to escape. And Michael remembers that she was a super soldier. An absolute 100% super soldier that can not only fight off, what was it, like 9 or 10 people who are firing on kill, but you said you thought that you saw her take a shot. Now, I don't remember her getting hit.
That's what I was saying. You should look through the still images that you have available and see if you can verify. I'm pretty sure she took a hit of some kind right at the beginning of the fight. And in fact, the way that I remember, and granted, memory can be off, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but like I said, look through the still images if you can. Take them off of the view screen and then take a look. But it seems like because I remember when we were watching that fight and she took a hit, I was like, oh, she's actually not going to overpower them all, and then she overpowers them all. This is so mind-numbingly dumb that, I mean, first, in the first episode, of course, I went off about Michael accidentally killing a Klingon twice her size, and then going toe-to-toe with a Klingon in hand-to-hand combat later on. And but then they seem to tone that down a little bit, and I gave the show some praise in the last few weeks, actually saying they've really improved. And now it's like they said, oh, you know what? We haven't had Michael be an over-the-top Mary Sue in a few episodes, so let's clock it up to 11. And now she's going to be a badass at 17 things that she wasn't before, plus the things she was a badass at before. We're going to take her up to another level to where she's going to, unarmed, take on an entire room full of Imperial guards who are armed to the teeth and take a few of them out and then escape through a conveniently exploded hole just big enough for her to escape in.
Right. Alexandra, I currently find... So I agree with everything you said. I just took a look at all my still images. I would never show anything that wasn't a still image because CBS... I'd hate for CBS to take down this episode, this live stream of their crap episode. But she didn't get hit, from what I could see. So she dodged all of those bullets because she's just that good. Alexandra... So
then she is Neo. Johnny Doe is just saying, so Michael's now Neo. So yeah, apparently she can dodge phaser fire. But yeah, that whole fight scene was so stupid in that she can come out of there without a scratch, basically, and she should have been cut to pieces. And the thing is, and I know we'll get into it later, but there are several times in this episode where people are like, oh, well, kill her. And then they just kill him,
Right.
But no, with Michael, we got to play nice.
So, Alexandra, let me say this. I think that if you are ultra one-way politically, you'll probably enjoy it because it says all of the things that you want it to say of bad guys. I think that this has some good action to it. I find it incredibly insulting. If it wasn't Trek, I wouldn't be as upset about it. I find it incredibly insulting to the brand of Trek. Now, if you guys disagree, ultimately that's fine. I'm going to calm down. But yeah, I find it incredibly insulting. As we said, she fights off all these guys. By the way, let's remember, these are the Emperor's guards. And these are the best trained 10 legions. Remember, they said that. Best trained 10 legions the Terran Empire has. So not only is this the best trained 10 legions, but we're at the Emperor's guards. These people have to protect her from getting straight up murdered. Michael takes them out. So let's just sit back and think about that for a sec. And she's outnumbered like, 10 or 12 people to 1. She doesn't have a weapon. All of them do.
Yep.
Okay. The one thing I will say, the one thing I like about it...
By the way, you do know you need to do a dance, right?
No, I'm not doing a dance. I got to call out Stephen Julius and tell Stephen how awesome he is. Guys, this channel is brought to you by viewers like you, and the only way that it gets better is by your continued support. Unfortunately, it's hard for me to be happy and excited when I'm doing this. But the one thing I will say about it is that when we are on Discovery, the B plot, I enjoy the B plot. I enjoy Discovery. Everything that happened on the Discovery ship, I liked. I like Saru. I like Stamets. I love the fact that Tilly is now basically past cadet. I love that. And so they're getting prepared and getting ready to, of course, come to the ship to help out because they've finally figured out, well, we're not at that point yet. They're still trying to figure out how to get home and how to work through everything. And I'm trying to remember looking at the still images where we at here. God, this is just so frustrating. But did you, when it comes to the Discovery crew themselves, did you like the quote-unquote B-plot with the Discovery crew? I did enjoy that, personally.
I thought it was all right. I think that the ultimate resolution was kind of silly, but I mean, and I kind of saw it coming. But I didn't have a problem with the way that Saru and everybody else was on the show. Of course, that was pretty small amount of screen time compared to the whole thing on board the Charon, the flagship, which unfortunately was not that good.
Right. The what part? The standoff you said between them? Yeah, we'll get to that for sure. So Alexandra said, I see it's a one-girl army power. Did at least Lorca go down in a blaze of glory? We're going to get to that, but I wouldn't say it's a one-girl army. It wasn't only Michael. They did pull in Giorgio.
It was a two-girl army.
It was a two-girl army. It was a two-woman army. So, man... Again, I liked what's going on in Discovery. I'm waiting for of course, the advertisements that you have with still images to get past, and then I'll bring that back up. And this may be skipping ahead, but how did you... I feel like when the Discovery crew finally finds out about Lorca, it was too easy for them. And I know this is jumping ahead, but I want to go ahead and get into it. So... Michael reaches out to the crew. She reaches out to Saru, and she finally gets a hold of Saru. And, she's like, Lorca's been evil, yada, yada, yada. He's been playing us for fools. And Saru at first is like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know that. And then she's like, yes, he's a Terran because he's sensitive to light. And then all of a sudden, Saru is like, by God, you may have something. And then you have Stamets who comes up and says, well, he's the one that got us to do all these crazy jumps, so it would make sense. And he overrode the system, or he could do it from his seat. We never confirmed that he did that from his seat. We just know that he can change the system from his seat. And then, they talked to the crew, and it just seemed too easy.
Right.
Lorca, let's consider this. Lorca handpicked most all of them. Lorca made that ship. Lorca
which I have a problem with, by the way.
Well, Lorca handpicked every one of them. Everyone was there because of him, right? All of them were made because of him. And they turn on him on a dime.
Well, not just that. I mean, yeah. Now, I'm trying to remember. Do you remember what was it that was said when Saru questioned why didn't his ganglia go off? I remember Saru said that.
Yeah, but they just ignored it. Like they brought it up and then they ignored it.
Yeah.
They never addressed it.
Right. But here's the thing is that, and this is a continuity issue, but continuity issues really irk me, is that in this episode we find out that the whole reason that Lorca wants to do this takeover of the Empire is over illegal immigration, because of course Lorca is now Trump, apparently.
Well, I was going to bring that. I still want to talk about the Discovery part first. Then we're going to bring
but here's the thing. So he is mad because even though the Empire is xenophobic, it's not xenophobic enough for Lorca. And yet, he handpicks this crew and puts an alien as his first officer. Not just any alien, an alien from the race of people that they eat.
And remember at the end, he even says, if I thought that you weren't a part of the Federation cult, I would have any of you work for me.
And he compliments, and he even says straight up to Saru, I want you to know that everything I'm saying here about you is sincere. And it's like, then how can you have respect for this alien if you hate aliens just because they're aliens? It makes no sense whatsoever. Either, that would be like if you had the head of the KKK recruit a black guy to help him figure out a way to get back to KKK universe, and then at the end tell the black guy, you know what? I think you're awesome.
Right.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, and again, I apologize for going out of order, but I did just think about how easy it seemed like the crew turned on her. So, but going back to what you said, so he's talking to Stamets. He kills 9 of the 10 legions, kills all of them using this thing on the ship, right? And then he does a announcement. Like we said, he talks to the whole ship. He goes on speakerphone or whatever the hell it's called. And he says, it's basically what you said. He says, George, you've let too many of the aliens in, and we need to make the Empire glorious again. Those two things, go to hell. I'm done. Okay, let me tell you this. You can write Trek, and you can have a liberal message, and you can do it well, and you can be subtle about it, and you don't have to be an idiot. Let me give you a couple. The Outcast, Who Watches the Watchers, and Past Tense. Some of those don't do it completely well. Some of those can be insulting, but they are not near on the level. All of those are episodes, by the way, from DS9 and from The Next Generation. And they are not near as insulting as this is. It doesn't matter if I agree with this. It doesn't matter if I agree with the president. It doesn't matter if I think what he's doing is right. You can't write well if you dishonor this franchise. You're bad at writing, and all you do is you stigmatize and you get people not to like Trek. If I was a hardline Republican, I would not watch another episode. You lost a good part of your base because you're stupid. Because you're absolutely stupid. The object of the goal, if you're making a series, is to get as many people to watch it as possible. If you want to tell a message, that's fine. If you want to try to show people how they might be wrong, that's fine. DS9, The Outcast, I think, no, not The Outcast, I'm sorry, Past Tense, I think did it fairly well. You can tell these episodes. Deep Space Nine showed homosexuality in a time when homosexuality was not something people accepted, and they normalized it. Past Tense from The Next Generation arguably showed transgenderism, showed people choosing what they wanted to be, female or male, and they did it in a subtle way. Whoever wrote that line, and Jason Isaacs for saying it, you're all idiots. And I don't have to agree with Trump. I think he does a lot of stupid stuff. I think Trump does a lot of stupid stuff. But all you're doing is helping the other side when you write schlock like this.
Can I say one quick thing about that?
Sure.
I just want, for the record, people to go back and look at some of the earlier episodes of our discussions and how Laura would say that I was the only person willing to discuss the politics behind this.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's stupid. It's in the lore. I'll talk about it if it's in the lore. And I hate it because it dishonors the franchise that I really like.
I've been saying that for the last 6 months, but you always say, you stop talking about politics. It is stupid, it is annoying, and it is inappropriate to take it to the level they're taking it. It's one thing, like you said, to take ideas, and Trek has always done that, right? Trek has always, for example, all the way back to the original series, there was an episode, most people in the modern context don't even get it, but there's an episode called the Mark of Gideon, in which Kirk is on this planet where the planet is grotesquely overpopulated to the point where everybody's shoulder to shoulder, and
I remember that
they
episode.
bring Kirk to the planet specifically so that they could get a bacteria that he has in his system that will cause a mass plague and kill a lot of people to deal with their population issues. And they get into Kirk talking to him about, well, there are other ways to deal with this, such as sterilization and family planning. And then they said, no, our beliefs don't allow for that. And this, at the time, in the 60s, that was a big discussion dealing with Catholics allowing for birth control. And so this is something that's not new to Trek. It's just new in how blatant and over the top they're taking it. They should just rename the Klingon Empire the Republican National Convention.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I have never in my life saw something as stupid as this. It has
So
always
you haven't seen The Last Jedi then?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about in Trek. No, The Last Jedi is 10 times. It's so subtle. The Last Jedi is so subtle compared to this. All right. Let me ask you this. Moving past that. Because again, I'll say one last thing. When you do stuff like this, you get people to stop watching and you get people to sympathize with somebody who does things that sometimes he doesn't need to be sympathized with. It's an overreaction, and you're the reason that he got in power. If you don't like him, and you like this message, and you think that this was the episode everyone needed to see, you're the reason he's in power. By the way, you look in the... Okay. Did you think there was an overarching environmental message with the thing?
I wouldn't say overarching. They did go and nod to... Remember, I told you that basically the problem is that everybody needs to fly in Prius starships. Right. And... because the spore drive on the Charon is basically an environmental hazard that's going to kill all life in all universes, because we've got to up the ante one more level. So we can't just have it, 1,000 people are going to die, 1 million. No, we're going to kill all life in every universe everywhere so that Michael can be the savior of everything.
I could see that connection. I didn't see that connection, but I can see where talking about perhaps subtle ways to do stuff. I thought that, and maybe because it's in comparison to that idiocy, it seemed all right. It seemed to have a message, but not overbearing, in my opinion.
I know that I didn't have a problem with. I thought it was the thing is, I probably never would have even noticed it if it wasn't for the fact that they were taking everything else up to 11. And so then you start looking at like, okay, what's the political motivation behind this line? What's the political motivation behind that line? Because they cram it in there so much that you just start looking and you see nothing but politics when you're supposed to just be enjoying the show.
Right. So Alexandra. I'm a bit lost here. Why is Lore so upset right now?
Well, first of all, Laura's,
I'm always
he's cranky.
So they had two parts in there where Lorca says, make the Empire glorious again, which make America great again. And then one of the reasons he said that she was weak is because she let aliens in. I'm upset about this, not because I necessarily agree or disagree with the political stances there. I'm upset about this because it is in there to attack a certain part, not to advance a story, not to make a story good. It's there to attack a specific segment. It only further divides Trek fans. It makes no sense for the character himself, and it is the reason that Trump is in power.
By the way, you know what they could have done to improve it would be to have Lorca say, you should have built a wall around the Empire.
We're going to build a wall around the mirror universe and make the Prime universe pay for it.
And this is like when he goes onto the intercom and tells everybody, how horrible the Empress is because she thinks aliens are not as bad as. And notice he's not. The Emperor doesn't like aliens. She just apparently doesn't hate them quite as much as Lorca does. She literally eats them.
But apparently Lorca thinks she's too...
Yeah, she's too nice because she's just eating them. But then in that same sequence, Lorca is talking about, hey, and no matter what happens, don't hurt Michael Burnham. She's integral to my plans.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get into that.
But here's the thing. That's never explained.
No one can ever say this person is not a Michael Sue or a Mary Sue. By the way, they actually did have some gore porn in there. When he was killing the crew, you got to see some of them bubbling with stuff coming out of their eyes and the mouth. So we still got our gore porn. No sex, though. So they're moving up in that direction. All right. So there is one thing I did like. It's so hard because after that, I'm done. I'm done with this episode. I'm done with this series. But
there's still another episode.
Yeah.
You're not done yet.
So I liked the standoff. There was a standoff between Georgiou and Lorca. And I liked how that went. So what happened is Georgiou walks in with, the cream of the crop who can't beat Michael, but apparently these people are just going to kill like they've never killed before, but they can't beat one person unarmed. But they're going to come in and they're just going to rock the world. They're going to rock the boat, baby. And you have one of her, I don't know, commanders or whatever there, and she's like, "Yeah, we got jumped. All my people are dead." And Georgiou is looking somewhat, I guess, cautious. And I'm with her because I think this person's about to turn on her, which is what she thinks. I think, which is probably what she's thinking too. And she's like, "So why are you still alive?" And it's like, "So he wanted me to tell you that he's here, and he did it." And then she is killed. Now that. If I can just remove that part, if I can remove the previous part from it, I liked that. And I liked the battle because it seemed like both of them were really using tactics, and they were trying to outsmart each other. It did feel that...
When you say the battle, you mean like the struggle to take control of the ship?
In the hallway. Yeah, no, in the hallway.
I thought it was horrible.
I thought it felt like a chess game to me. It did. It felt like a chess game. I did enjoy that because, again, they're firing. It felt
like it was written by a couple of fanboys that don't know how to. I mean, it's like, "Oh, we're going to shoot you. No, we got a force field. Oh, we planned for your force field. Did you plan for my sentry cannons? Yep, we sure did. But, no, it was stupid. It was absolutely. It was not a chess game. It was a bunch of nerds sitting there saying, how can we create we'll create this, and then there's a counter to it that will have this, and then there's a counter to that we'll have this, and then there's a counter to that with this, and it didn't flow organically. It didn't feel like, because otherwise it would have been, he wouldn't have just had his guys standing there to get slaughtered if they knew the sentry guns were going to start taking them out. And that didn't make any kind of sense.
I don't think he knew about it. So for those who hadn't watched it, basically there's a standoff. They go to fire on her. They go to fire on Georgiou. Lorca's troops fire on Georgiou. Georgiou brings up a shield, and then they turn sentry guns on him. They take out the sentry guns, and it's just a back and forth. I don't think they knew about him. They just saw him after they killed the first troops there. Right?
No, I think because if the thing is that. But then within, somehow he and I can't remember the name of the one character that was from Battlestar Galactica, but they have plot armor, of course. And so they duck behind there and then shoot the guns in a split second, which means they knew where they were. And
I thought they saw them, is what I assumed.
Right, but the thing is, if they didn't know about the sentry guns, then they would have been standing out in the middle of the hallway and gotten killed with everybody else.
Oh, so you're saying that they had...
Yeah,
Okay, I got you. I don't know. I still disagree. I think it was good. I like the back and forth. It did for me seem like it was a game of chess to a degree where they were going back and forth. So I guess it just depends.
Game of chess between idiots.
I liked it. Apparently, Michael did not. And now we're only getting his icon for some reason, but that's okay.
Just because I'm getting up for a second to get some coffee, but I'm listening.
So I need to talk, is what you're saying. Yeah, that was... I liked... I think there were some good points here, the more I think about it, but it's just those other points were so bad. So we finally get to where Michael is contacted Saru. We've already discussed this a little bit. I think that it's too easy, in my opinion. I think that they believe Michael too quickly. Michael is a traitor. She has been a traitor. And Saru even calls her a friend, and that seems to come out of nowhere. I mean, I like that they were building up for it. But it seemed too easy. And, they're just all instantly against him. He fan-picked these people. These people owe him almost everything. Michael above all else. So to turn on him so quickly is unfortunate, and it doesn't feel realistic.
You're forgetting one very important fact.
And that is what?
That Michael's the one that told them, and she's perfect.
That's true. Michael is, in fact, very perfect. All right, so throughout this thing, Stamets turned on Lorca, and that's how Lorca got caught and how he had to escape. And Lorca comes back. Lorca captures Stamets. They threaten him. He turns on a dime against the Emperor and is helping him in almost every way. Highly, very helpful. Has a lot of uses based on what he's done. And ultimately, after he's done all these things, he's helped kill 9 of the 10 legions. He's helped override all of the systems. Though he didn't... there was a part where they had Georgiou cornered, right? And she does an emergency transport. And Stamets didn't tell him about it. Stamets then disabled it afterwards. Do you think that was him hedging his bets? Just in case...
I don't know. I think the evil Stamets is, from what you could gather from him, he is a complete and utter opportunist. He'll basically do whatever he can to survive. And the evil Stamets basically, he may not have just not realized that she had that. But then he asks, "Oh, can you override it?" And he says, "Oh yeah, I can do that," and then he works on it. But right. I don't think that he knowingly did that.
So I question whether he was hedging his bets or not.
But it doesn't matter because he's dead anyway.
Well, let's get to that. So first off, I disagree with Lorca. I think Stamets has a ton of ability, and he's smart, and I think he's worth keeping around, though he'll turn on you, so you just need to know that, right? So my question is, when he kills him, they open up and he says, I'm going to make you fall into this spore generator that you created. And we find out what it is. It's a spore generator that can power to the 9s and defeat everybody. It's so powerful.
It's basically the doomsday weapon from the Death Star.
Yeah, it's so powerful, I'm surprised Michael didn't come up with it. As soon as they opened that up and didn't kill Stamets, I was like, yeah, they're going to kill Lorca that way. As soon as I saw that, because there's no reason they would open that up for nothing. Were you in the same way? Were you like, yeah, that's going to come back up?
Yeah, you knew. Well, yeah, you knew they were going to open it up again later. Although it was a stupid reveal. It's like, okay, so you have this giant star-like thing in the middle of your ship, and then in the throne room, you set up a trap door so you can drop people into it. That makes no sense.
Well, it seems dangerous.
What is? Yeah, but that looks like a Dr. Evil move. Yeah, just. Or, Jabba the Hutt had a trap door to drop you into the Rancor pit. It's like, come on.
Well, and it does seems very dangerous to me, especially if that system goes out or something. The shields. It seems useless. It is, like you said, an evil genius drop Bond villain, pit of death thing, but it seems unnecessary and it seems dangerous. For something so unnecessary. Why don't you just beam him into it if you're going to do that, So they kill off Stamets. I think that was a mistake. I think Stamets could have been a great asset. You just got to keep your eye on him, But...
And let me say this, Vaughn. I know he's going on about the gravity on that star thing. And I'll give him a pass. Unlike with Star Wars, where they literally drop bombs in space, where I had to bust out laughing about the physics of that. But at least this, you could say, well, that giant ball of energy, which is more powerful than whole galaxies, apparently, and is going to destroy all life in every universe, might have enough gravity to pull him down.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I could see where people were saying could be upset about that. But
well, I will give him a pass on the gravity there, but because everything else about the episode was so bad, that's the last thing I'm worried about.
Maybe they just pushed him down, though. Maybe they increased the gravity on that one part, and it just pushed him down, like the bombs. Yeah, you hear that silence? It's deafening. It's absolutely deafening. So let's talk about the Michael Sue pieces to it, because we're coming up on that. We've already kind of talked about how she can take 10 to 12 of the most seasoned and best trained guards like they're nothing. And then everybody wants to talks about how awesome and how great she is. And this episode is going to be the pinnacle of why I think that she's a Mary Sue. You have Lorca, who reaches out to her and says, I need you. You're so much more. Your counterpart was this awesome, greatest, just wondrous thing. And you're so much more and so much better, and you deserve to be here because you know that we're both strong, and the weak are meant to go over the strong, and you deserve to be a part of us. And just as sickening as you can get, it's also, I guess, somewhat obvious. It seems like he has some sexual frustrations towards her, going back to the grooming that we were talking about.
Well, no, they mentioned that evil Michael and him were lovers.
Yeah, and they also mentioned that she was groomed from a child up, and then he went from a father figure to her calling him daddy at night. So it's sickening.
No. She never called him daddy. He called her mom.
He called her daddy. But yeah, and it's just, there have been the heroes, people. One of the reasons, and I think Lorca talking to Michael, this entire scene somewhat, I think, epitomizes the Michael Sooness that we talk about. Because there have been times when the bad guy has tried to talk the hero into joining their side. And they've even said they needed them, and that they're the most, they're really necessary. And it's, male to male, male to female, all kinds of heroes in Trek that they've tried to talk. The difference is that he idolizes her, and that's not inconsistent with every other character in the show. That's why this is different. The idolization.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, is that, like, classic Mary Sue, one of the things about Mary Sue characters is that a Mary Sue is beloved by other characters within the universe. And not only is Michael loved by everybody on the Discovery, and loved by evil Lorca, of course, who is obsessed with her from the very beginning of the series, but, now the Emperor as well, the most hard-hearted person in the universe and pure evil, but no, she loves Michael.
Well, we're about to get to that.
But the fact that she's, I'll buy you some time. God. When she said that.
By the way, something that might make you laugh. Someone else, they're doing kind of sayings now. Beam me up, daddy.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. Yeah. All right. So we get to the kind of like what you were talking about. So she comes to, she finds Georgiou, who has been utterly defeated, who apparently goes to her room. Give me one quick second. Let me address this real quick. Anyway, so she goes, she's like, I know where you're going to be. I know where you're coming from. I know you obviously you go to your whatever that is, not throne room, but you go to, what'd she say it was? Her sanctuary. Her sanctuary. Because that's the last place Lorca's going to look, is her sanctuary, right? So goes to her sanctuary because she's Michael and she's awesome. And she just,
Yeah, there's no explanation to how Michael found her sanctuary.
I think she's been there before or whatever. But so they're having this conversation, and she's like, "Look, we're not gonna let Lorca take this over. We're not going to, let Lorca win. I betrayed my Georgiou, and I betrayed you here, but we're not gonna let that happen again." And she looks over with like a fondness, just like fawning, and she's like, "I can see why Lorca just is into you. I almost believe it too."
I was half expecting her to try and kiss her. It was like, So then Michael comes up with a cockamamie plan for trying to take back over, but it requires the Emperor, the most ruthless, evil, cutthroat person in history, to be willing to be humiliated by Michael in front of everybody. And she goes along with it, even though she's probably going to end up dying from it. She goes along with it anyway. And then at the end, she's literally going to
No, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. Okay, so in order for them to save the universe, because you have this environmental thing where, we're sapping and we're decaying and we're destroying our universe because evil Stamets did it, Mirror Universe Stamets did it, and we got to destroy the ship to save Pop Culture Renegades just went live with really Lorca. That's funny. To save, because it's going to destroy everything. We're just poisoning our atmosphere or whatever. And she's like, you know what you got to let me do? We're gonna take Lorca. We're gonna beat Lorca, but you got to let me destroy your ship. So not only does she let her humiliate her in front of Lorca, in front of his crew, and just to herself, but she agrees. She's like, you know what? Okay, let's blow up my ship.
Yeah.
My ship that has defeated all the empires, that has bested everyone. My ship that ensures the Terran Empire will reign supreme above all those dirty aliens. Let's blow it to hell because you're Michael and I just can't say no to that smile. Yep. Oh, also, one thing you brought up too. She keeps looking into the sun.
Yeah.
She has a sensitivity to light.
All these shots of them just staring into that sun, and it's like, what happened to the whole, you guys are super sensitive to light?
That's if that is like the sun, as it is portrayed, that would hurt Prime Universe. That would hurt humans. That would burn the retinas of humans, and the Terrans are just staring off into space. Yeah. So here's a moment with Saru. So you have Saru, and he's telling them the plan. So what we got to do is the Discovery has to drop out of warp. Discovery has to then fly under the ship. They have to destroy the sun. If they destroy the sun, it fixes the mycelium network, and everybody wins. Of course, they talk about how if they do this, they're probably going to die because the explosion. I think it is inconsistent for them to turn against Lorca like this. And I think that you do have a point about the species. And so I might be able to be talked into that the species might not necessarily do this. But I think Saru becoming the captain from being this timid... So let's just remove the species for a second, okay? He starts off as this timid science officer that is scared of everything, that thinks they're going to all die, they're going to get killed, things like that. And it slowly progresses up until he becomes a captain that says, you know what? I have a sense for when I'm going to die. That is not happening today. This is one of the best crews I have ever worked with. We're going to do this. We're going to get home. You people have jobs to do. Let's get to it. Thought it was very captain. Thought it was very one of the high points of Trek if you remove the species thing.
Well, and that's, there's one thing in that speech that he said that I really liked, which was when he said, it's well known that my species can sense the death coming on. I don't feel that today. That was a great moment because if I were a member of that crew, I'd be like, hey, yeah, he can sense death. And if he doesn't sense it, we're going to live through this. That would be a great inspirational moment. But the problem is, like I said, the whole thing about his species is that everything, his whole arc, while it's been well done, and I can never remember the name, Doug Jones, I believe is the actor. He portrays Saru really well. But the problem is that the Saru we have now is not a member of the same species as the Saru we had in episode 1. Because if it is part of their, of course, we're going to, I've been talking about a lot about Star Trek and racism lately. But if we're going to say that genetically his species is cowardly, even though that's a racist thing, and I would, but if that's what they're supposed to be, because that's how Star Trek is that everybody is defined by whatever their species is, that they just substitute racism with species, then how could he not be cowardly?
Right. And as I said, I think you have some compelling arguments there, but just looking at the character themselves, I enjoy the build-up. I enjoy him going from this to that. Right. Robbie disagrees with us. Robbie, please let me know your disagreement. We'll definitely address it if we can. Say my name so I'll see it highlight. going back to what we were saying there. So I did enjoy that. And then we have... I want to keep this in order because there's so many issues that I have difficulties with that I'm trying to keep it specifically in its order. And it doesn't help when these still images have these advertisements. But so Tilly figures out how to fix it, right? So Tilly, and I forget exactly how she did it, but do you remember specifically? I know that she fixed it, but I forget how she fixed it.
Fix what?
So remember, she figured out how they're going to survive all of this.
Yeah, well, the tech talk was that, and remember, I actually called it out before she actually said it. Since this is a mycelium device with nothing but mycelium energy, they would just leech off of that to activate the spore drive.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then they came up with the idea, which makes no sense, of, well, if we combine the spore drive and the warp drive, then the warp bubble might protect us from the spore explosion, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
That would be like saying, okay, I have a boat, and the boat is designed to be waterproof because, it's a boat. Well, the engine on the boat runs on internal combustion, like small explosions. So if I combine the two, then a giant explosion, we can just ride like it's water. It makes no sense. You're taking two completely unrelated things and meshing them together in a way that makes no sense. The warp bubble will not protect you from especially since, even though I've argued, like, in the warp bubble technically takes you out of regular space and puts you into subspace. But the thing is that the mycelium network is everywhere, including subspace. And so a mycelium explosion would hit you no matter what you did.
Right. Here's the thing, I guess, that pisses me off about this entire show. This entire effing show. There are really good... It's like watching Janeway on Voyager. Almost, except Voyager's done much better than this. There are great ideas here. And there is great writing here. Just going back to what I was saying, like you said, it may make no sense from a tech standpoint, but Tilly starts out as this over-talking, unbearable cadet. And now she is effectively saving the day as an engineer who is going to go into the command service.
Sure.
And yeah, in Nexus, it's bad when I'm looking at Voyager and saying, this is how it needs to be done.
Well, here's the thing, is that the problem with this show, and it's similar to some of the problems with the recent Star Wars films, is that rather than create some characters, create a setting, and then kind of let it flow organically to an interesting and logical conclusion, they create the characters in the setting, and then they say, how do we achieve this political agenda?
I agree.
And so then you have to bend logic and bend the writing. Everything has to end up with Michael being the hero of every scenario. Everything has to end up with Michael saving the day. And when Michael is not directly saving the day, we better make damn sure that it's not a white man that saves the day. Preferably we get a woman to save the day. And to do that, to insert those politics into it, regardless of how you feel about, you can be feminist, you can be misogynist, or anything in between. It doesn't matter if your end goal is the political point rather than telling a good story, an organic story with these characters. Then it sucks. And it wouldn't matter if this was a conservative agenda series doing the same thing. It would be horrible. And that's why if it's done well, like in some past iterations of Star Trek, while I may not agree with the political agenda, I can enjoy the crap out of it if it's well made.
I agree.
And, but when they make the political agenda the reason for the existence of the show, then unless you happen to be on board with that political agenda 100%, then it just, rubs you the wrong way because they just keep shoving the awesomeness of Michael Burnham in your face over and over. And when they got away from that, it was so much better. The mid-season episodes I was very optimistic. I was thinking this show's going to get good. And then for some reason, the last couple episodes, they're like, you know what? We have not made Michael perfect lately. We need to make her perfect again.
So I agree. You know, and by the way, people are talking about my my editor helping me out, who's now in shot. But that's what frustrates me when people comment in chat, or people comment when people say something in the comments. It's not because it's a liberal agenda that I have an issue with.
It's that there is an agenda,
right? And you can, again, as I said, if you can have a message, you can try to promote what you believe is right, but you need a story first and that message second.
Well, and there's a difference, and that's something that a lot of people don't get when we're talking about these types of shows, because, you know, like I said, it's common knowledge that for the most part, Star Trek has always been to the left of center. Right, and Star Trek has never been a conservative show.
Right.
But there's a difference between having some commentary or, you know, some ideas and things like that, and putting them into the narrative in a way, and making the entire show about a political agenda. As much as I railed on Star Trek: The Next Generation in my video earlier this week, I don't think that Star Trek: The Next Generation except for some of the stuff in the first season, really, was not just a political agenda show. You know, their goal was to make an interesting series about adventure and exploration, but that wasn't the reason for the show. Was not just to have, an anti-religious rant or something, which they, unfortunately did in the episode I was talking about.
Well,
but in this, it's like you can't get away from Michael Burnham being perfect. You can't, she, and I'm not saying this because I hate the actress. I'm not saying this because I have any problem with women, that I have any problem with blacks or anything like that. Michael Burnham needs to get punched in the face. And when I say that, I mean she needs to lose a fight. She needs to lose at something. She needs to make a mistake that has consequences.
Negative consequences for her that doesn't end up with her being on the most
right.
advanced ship in the fleet. You know, and this is reiterating what you said, but let's even look at who watches The Watchers. I think it is a poorly written show. I agree with almost everything that you said in your review of it that you just did recently. Y'all should go to his channel and check that out. But even when they put down or insult religion without really discussing or going back and forth, really just giving one side and how it's horrific and everything, the episode wasn't based around that. At least not like this. You know what I'm saying? They had a story there. They had things that put together. They didn't just shoehorn it in my opinion.
Hey, one quick thing. I got to say this real quick. I'm sorry, but one person, and because people, whenever you make a rant like that, people try to point out her mistakes. And she made a mistake when she started the war. No, she didn't. Because she was the only person who knew the answer. And if everybody just listened to her, then the war never would have happened.
She was right. See, this is what people get upset. This is why people get confused. They think that a Mary Sue means that they don't do things that end in negative consequences. No, they never truly feel the consequences of their mistakes, regardless of what they say. And everybody ends up loving them for what they did. And they do. And this episode just epitomizes that. Now, let's talk about...
By the way, I know we're going to get into it in just a minute, but Von Miller, in just a minute we're going to talk about, no, the war was not going to happen either way, and I bet you... Well,
Anti-Trekker has it.
We're going to see it. We're going to see it next week, probably.
But we'll get back to that. Now, let's talk about how they don't care about continuity. Because, Michael, did you know that you can stay in warp and still continue to go to the same location? And just be in warp. It's just this thing you can stay in. Just like if I want to go to Disneyland, I can continue to drive until I decide to drop out of driving right at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have watched the show and know exactly how everything works. And so, as you know, warp you have to drop out of. You can tell it to go to a destination, and then you can just stay in warp. And no one can get onto you. We have never seen anyone transport onto a ship while it is at warp. Never happened. Not in the Prime universe.
No, yes, you have.
No.
Not an original series, but yes, you have.
No, never, Michael. This is Discovery. They've watched all this. It has never happened. You can't do it. You can't engage warp and get on or off a ship when it's at warp. It is impossible.
Best of both worlds.
No, didn't happen.
Yep.
Fake news.
Yeah, best of both worlds. Remember, they even said matching speed for transport when they were at warp and beamed aboard the Borg cube.
Fake news. No, Discovery.
And yes,
the writers.
and I believe in the and even in the J.J. Abrams crap continuity there, because they did some things with warp drive that make no sense in the J.J. films, but even in the J.J. Abrams film, they were like trans warp beaming was a thing that was a plot point in Star Trek 2009. But go ahead.
For those who aren't catching it, because you're trying to correct me, I'm being sarcastic. JJ verse, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, all had transportation while ships.
I believe in the original series they did as well, but
all ships. I don't remember that. Like you, I don't remember that in the original series. And I remember them making a point of how transporting in the ship while at warp is a really bad idea. I saw that episode. But I know that it is possible in every other series. Every other series is done. Yeah. Let's continue on.
And by the way, let's talk for a second. And so thank you, by the way, to the producers of Star Trek Discovery for proving once and for all that I am 100% right and Laura is 100% wrong when it comes to the idea of suicide missions with the Dominion ramming Borg cubes. I just want to thank the producers of Discovery for that. Because
we can stay in it.
Because we actually see Discovery fly through the star in the middle of that ship with no damage whatsoever to either the star or Discovery.
I stand corrected.
Thank you.
I was absolutely wrong. Because this is canon, and this proves that is possible.
I seriously, for a second, thought, did the visual effects guys just not get the memo and forget to finish this shot? Because it literally just, the orb, whatever, but the ship literally flies through it, and there's no effect whatsoever on either the ship or the orb. It just flies through like there was a glitch in a video game where one thing passes through another. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I was like, how's that possible anyway? That didn't seem possible at all.
And it didn't seem they were at warp speed yet anyway. So, I mean, why wasn't Discovery incinerated by that? And I'm sorry, if the shields couldn't handle the explosion of this thing, why could they perfectly fine handle going through it? And why going through it didn't it disrupt the orb at all?
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, even if we assume the Enterprise J can go through a star, I would say that according to their canon, Enterprise J and the Discovery are probably dissimilar in the technology that they have. That would be like saying they could do open brain surgery during the Civil War, just like they can do open brain surgery in 2018. Probably a little bit dissimilar with different different results. By the way, going back to what you were talking about with Giorgio being talked by Michael to degrade herself in front of everybody. Right there. So, here's a question for you. So you have the Discovery drops out of warp, right? And here's my question for you. Why wasn't that ship, the Palace...
Well, remember, their warp drive was guided by the power of love.
No, we'll get to that. No. So they drop out of warp and they fire on the Palace ship, which apparently decided not to have shields up.
Well, why would they have shields?
Right.
I mean, it's not like every starship has shields.
Right.
Jeez.
I will say one thing. Well, that's coming up a little bit later. But yeah, so if you look at this shot, they drop out of warp, which they were just staying in so that no one could transport, because obviously they can't. That's fake news. You're a Trump supporter if you believe that. And then they fire on the palace, and it just hits it. It just and you know what? They don't know much about this ship. I would dare say that they weren't ever near the ship, so they didn't really get a good scan on it. But they know exactly where the bridge is. That doesn't bother me as much. It's a nitpick. I get it. But then they fire on the bridge. No shields. Blow it to hell.
Well, not only that, but the Discovery has detailed schematics for the Charon. Where
Right.
did they get them?
You could say that maybe Michael sent them to him. I guess.
When?
When she contacted them and talked them into on a dime that Lorca was a bad guy. Of those two things, I would believe that she could transmit the schematics more than I believe that she could talk them into instantly turning it against Lorca. But, yeah. So then, we get to the battle scene. You didn't like the battle scene all that much.
You're talking about the big fight scene?
The big fight, yeah.
Oh, it's horrible.
So, I will give them some credit in that I see where they were trying to bring it back, and her finally having like her, not goodbye, like her, I don't know what the word I'm looking
Redemption.
for. Or not even necessarily redemption, but having closure with Georgiou. Fighting with Georgiou and actually winning. And Georgiou not dying. I see that to a degree. I see not the redemption, just the finality, right? Overall, I wasn't a huge fan of the battle scene. It didn't do a lot for me. Like you said, it seems somewhat choreographed. It's really very hard for me to watch it and not just be disgusted at this point. I wish I could have known about that one piece where they just completely jump the shark and say screw trekkers, and wish I could have watched this without that baggage at this point. And that's just me being honest.
Well, I'm sorry. That fight scene, first of all, the choreography was beyond. I mean, it looked like that fight scene should have been on the CW. All right. It looked like a fight scene from Arrow or something. It was just so cheesy, where they were, once again, we have Michael taking on multiple people. They made out Lorca to be this ultra badass, but yet, whatever, I guess Michael's better. And they're going through all this stupid fight. And yeah, I kept thinking, okay, yeah, this is a bad episode of Arrow. This is a bad episode of The Flash. This is just really, really bad. And it just felt unenergetic. There was no energy to this fight at all. But here's the thing that pisses me off. We're talking about a hand-to-hand battle with Michelle Yeoh in the middle of it. Not just any freaking asterisk. And if you don't know who Michelle Yeoh is, besides being Giorgio Filippa on this show, you need to look her up. She is one of the best on-screen martial artists of our day. And this fight was pathetic. And so I was just insulted by the fact that, that'd be like if you got her and Jackie Chan together and to do this fight scene and it looked like this. It was like really... And yeah, Hidden Tiger. It's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. She was awesome in that movie. And in this, and the thing is, she, they showed several times she has a sword. She never fights with it. Why? That's just insulting to me. There should have been a big swordplay battle and use her talents to their maximum. But no, they just had her. She did a couple of kicks and the rest of it was just, it really looked like it was just horrible.
Yeah, I've never seen her fight before, so I have nothing to go on.
Dude, I tell you, her ability is beyond amazing. And so to see and to see this crap, it just hurt.
Did you notice how anytime Burnham fought, they may have gotten some good shots on her, but obviously they never won. But Yeoh was constantly getting beat and saved by Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Also, one thing that they brought up, so you remember when Yeoh did that kick, you're going to see it on the screen in a second. Was that her actual leg, or was that someone else's leg? Can she do that? Because that is an amazing. It may be hard for you to see, but that's when she kicks him. I know the kick
you're talking about. I remember it.
You can see it on screen.
But but I believe. I mean, I know she can do it. That is a doable move for people that have enough flexibility. But when you, so I would not be surprised if that really was her. Now, I'm sending you in our Skype conversation a link, so I want you to take a look at that while I talk for a moment, because you just have to see this sequence, particularly like around the 1 minute mark.
Okay.
Just take a quick look at that. Just so you guys know what I'm showing him is the fight between Michelle Yeoh and I'm horrible pronouncing this name, but I think it's Zaiwei Zhang, the younger girl from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Just a beautifully executed fight scene, and to see that actress do this crap is pathetic. Now, as far as that straight up leg kick, yes, that's something that I've seen done before. I've seen it done live, and I've seen it done in film before. Heck, Jean-Claude Van Damme used to do that kick. But it's, you have to be very flexible, obviously. Right. But it's definitely doable, and I would not, with Michelle Yeoh's experience, I wouldn't be surprised if that was her.
So I see that. Yeah, that's pretty.
Do you see the fight scene I'm talking about now?
Yeah, I see it. That's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Let me say something this way. Someone says that Michelle Yeoh is the head honcho for CBS's wife, and I don't know why they're having issues, because no loving husband would put their wife in something like this. So I mean, I hope Michelle realizes that this something wrong is being done to her by her being on this show, and I hope she gets help for that. So moving on, the fight between Michael and Lorca. Of course, Lorca never really gets a solid shot on her, if you notice.
I said Michael needs to get a punch in the face in one of these fights. And I'm not saying that because I hate her. It's because she needs to lose once.
The one thing I didn't like about it is that he really never had anything good to offer Michael to make her even want to betray or turn away from what she is. I was hoping during this point when he was saying, no, please stop. And again, this is the Michael Sue, stop. I love you. We need to be together. Blah, 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 bull BS. I was hoping at this point he was like, stop. This is all a trick. I'm with Section 31. Or just pull something out. Offer her something. It was as bad as the writing, in my opinion, and you'll probably disagree with this, but Return of the Jedi, I don't really feel like the Emperor had a lot to offer Luke at that final scene.
But you see, the difference here is that in Return of the Jedi, you have the supernatural aspect that in Star Trek you don't. In Return of the Jedi, and with all the Star Wars movies up until now, where we know that the Force is now just girl power, but in all six of the first six films, the Force, it will influence you while you influence it, and if you corrupt yourself by doing things in aggression and stuff, then you make yourself susceptible to it, and it influences you to become evil. The Emperor was just trying to goad Luke, because if the Emperor could get Luke to be aggressive and to do all that, he would lose it, and he almost did. With this, Lorca had nothing.
Right.
And he didn't even have the advantage of a supernatural force power to try and get her on his side.
And, going back talking to the Michael Sue, oh man, so she gets to be the better person with Lorca too, and we get to kill the white guy. She has a gun pulled on him, right? And she's like, we would have helped you. If you had told us that you're trying to kill hundreds of thousands of people to return and to kill the Emperor and to make your universe more xenophobic, we would have helped you get back. But you didn't. But I'm Michael effing Burnham, and I don't kill people. So I'm going to let the person right behind you do that. And then I'm going to save her, but we'll save that for later. Because I'm Michael Burnham. And Michael Burnham doesn't kill people.
In the classic tradition of Star Wars The Last Jedi, Notice that Ash/Volk was not in this episode at all.
Right.
There's still no resolution at all. Although we saw that the female Klingon is in the next episode, so maybe they'll get back into that.
And so she doesn't kill him, but of course, Georgiou. We'll get to that in a second. Let me say this. Anti-Trekker is so bitter. What's up with all the racially loaded comments from you? Kill the white guy. My name's Lore Reloaded, and I'm the one that said kill the white guy because they did. They killed the white guy. He was, in fact, white. So it's okay to say. It's a descriptor. So anyway, yeah, Georgiou kills him. And then... Whoops, sorry, my still images are moving, which they're not supposed to do that. Then he falls down into the reactor, which we've talked about. That's whatever. Yeah. When did Lore Reloaded become anti-Trekker? I've been hanging out with you. Too long. So, then we have what I would say, and you got kind of upset, and I agree. So, Michael is so awesome.
Who is that I'm supposedly dating?
Tommy Lauren. I think she's an alt-right person. I could be wrong. Killed the paleface. Okay, that's bad. Don't say stuff like that.
No, she's definitely not my type, but good.
Okay, so the Emperor says, Michael, I'm a disgraced Emperor. I'm going to die for you. I'm going to destroy his troops for you. Because you're so awesome, Michael. You've destroyed my ship. You helped a person destroy me becoming Emperor. I've been dethroned because of you. But this is you. And I'm going to die for you.
And keep in mind, this is the same Emperor that last week was going to slit Michael's throat when she thought she was the other Michael. And this week spares her and goes down to sacrifice herself to save Michael because she reminds her of the person who she thought she was going to slit her throat last week.
This woman puts up 3 beings, sentient beings, and chooses which one she's going to eat.
Yep.
The right gamers, this is your time, Michael. I, the Emperor, shall die, or die trying, for you.
Yes. So, yes, and we're finally to the end of the story, except that Michael decides at the last second to do the perfect right thing again and saves her.
Because a woman who keeps at least 12 to 24 people in an agonizer for a complete year, a person who eats sentient beings, a person who has killed untold amounts of aliens just because they're different, a person who, while not as anti-xenophobic as Lorca, still pretty xenophobic. This person deserves to be saved. Mm-hmm. She has slaughtered tens of thousands, if not millions of people.
So is this show just going to slowly just build up characters that they're going to keep in the brig? Just wondering.
No, she's going to become captain.
Yeah.
And then Burnham is going to be, the XL.
Right. So then the big twist.
What's the big twist? Well, she saves her. Yeah, she.
No. The big twist being that they use the spore drive, they come back home, but it's 9 months later. They accidentally jumped forward in time 9 months.
Well, no. We're not even there yet. We're not even there.
Come on,
yet.
We can't spend the show's getting too long.
Listen. It's not getting too long. I know you're hungry, but just chill out. Show is going as long as it needs to go. The power of love. You're the one that got upset about this. That he goes through the network.
Yes.
And remembers back to Hugh, which gets them home. You don't have anything else to say about that. You were big about that.
He uses the power of love to steer.
All right.
Apparently, because reasons.
All right. So they get back, and they're 6 months ahead. That's not unusual because 9
months.
9 months. That's not unusual because the timeline always went back and forth. So that's not unusual. And they lost the war. Now, you have an idea for how all of this gets changed because they got one more episode go ahead and give it, because I know you want to get done.
All right, so now we know that it's 9 months later. The Klingons have destroyed the Federation. That they are completely screwed, and so which means obviously now we know that 10 years later, Kirk, Spock, everything, the Federation's just fine. So obviously it's not going to stay this way. And how do they fix it? Well, very, very simple. They are going to find a way, probably using the spore drive, to go back in time. They will go back to the Battle of the Binary Stars. They will destroy the Klingon ship or something. They're basically going to make sure that Michael's mutiny was the right thing to do and attack first and prevent the war from ever happening.
Genius.
And then mic drop. Guess what? Michael not only saved the entire multiverse, she prevented the war that she was accused of starting.
And I'll bet you, somehow they make her captain. Probably of the Discovery. So, and what'll happen is
remember at the end of at the beginning of the first episode. Thank you for. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you just reminded me. At the beginning of the first episode of the series, you had Michelle Yeoh telling Michael that she's ready for her own command, and then everything falls apart. So then she prevents the war, and her command is the Discovery.
With Saru as the XO, we got our reset. Let's go.
Yep, and that way they can bring back the characters that have died along the way, and Ash will be fine because he wasn't captured.
Yeah, no war.
Yeah, and of course, everybody will just know that Michael is awesome. They won't know why they know that, but that's the one thing they'll retain from this timeline shift is that they know Michael Burnham is awesome.
Yep, it all fits. It all fits. You need to.
And
people.
Video. Let me correct Anthony too, because at first he said no, she won't be captain, she'll be admiral, and then no, she'll become head of Starfleet. No, you see, you don't understand how they're going with this writing. By the end of season 3, Michael Burnham will be God,
incarnate.
Yes, no, not incarnate. God. She will literally be God. Just end of story. She's going to attain godhood and become master of the entire universe. And we're going to find out that she created Kirk in her own image.
Yeah, so I think that seems plausible. By the way, guys, if you haven't liked this, either like it up or like it down. I don't care. Thumb it down. I need 176 people. It needs to add up to 176.
Yeah, it's really, it's funny. You got 175 people watching right now. You have 33 likes, 10 dislikes. What a bunch of lazy people. Sorry. I mean, how much effort does it take to click on the like button or the dislike button? Really?
So I'll say this.
By the way, I think you should hit the dislike button, but that's just my...
just 176 dislikes. Guys, last episode, me and Michael disagreed. I said you should buy it to binge watch. You don't need to buy this. It's not worth it. It doesn't care about Trek. It doesn't care about you. It is the NFL of Trek. It is the... Go ahead.
The NFL?
Yeah, it is the NFL of Trek when it comes to its politics, because NFL has been in some touchy subjects with their politics. It only cares about its message. It doesn't care anything about Trek itself, and it will only divide people more. It will only divide people more. It is a bad piece. It is schlock. Please don't buy it.
And by the way, I want, if my prediction for next week comes true, I don't know what, but I deserve something, and it's going to probably be a frontal lobotomy because I can't believe they went that bad.
Right.
Because what I'm saying, as far as them resetting it, basically they turned the entire first season into, it was just a dream.
Right.
Right? Because nothing happened. All the consequences of everything is just gone. And so guess what? Season 2, we get to start all over again.
So... Alexandra says, at Lore Reloaded at AntiTrekker, do you think that you would be able to enjoy the exact same story, but with a different Michael Burnham? No.
No, the story is the problem.
Yeah, it's not Michael Burnham.
It's not the actress, and it's not the fact that Michael Burnham is even female, even though we go off on the Mary Sue thing a lot. That's not the problem. The problem is that Michael Burnham is perfect in every way, and the show stumbles over itself over and over and over to make her perfect. Now, granted, if Michael Burnham was a male, it would change the dynamic of the show. And because of the political agenda, obviously, in the show, and if you don't believe there's a political agenda, read the frickin' information that's out there, because the producers of the show, the actors in the show, they've all admitted that there's been political agendas throughout the production of this show. So that's not, that's not me just pulling it out of my butt. But if you want to, but I have no, this actress, I know she's known from The Walking Dead. I'm not a Walking Dead person, so I've never seen her before. I've heard she's actually a really good actress.
Yeah, she's excellent in The Walking Dead. I really like her.
She appears wooden to me, and but I'll assume that she's a good actress. She's beautiful. She's not hard to look at, but
I'm not sexist. She can't. She's not good in this, and she's eye candy. I'm just
saying, it's not like I look at her and I, because I know some people accuse me of being a racist because I don't like her or something. No, and by the way, my wife happens to be black, so no, I'm not a racist. But I think that it's not. The problem is just that they decided to make this whole show about promoting her character above all else, and it makes no sense. It really, if she was just a character on the show, if you really want to fix this show, you stop making every episode and every moment about her. Even in the original series, not everything was about Kirk.
So, Melody Lewis, either you weren't listening or you just tuned in. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say it one more time. Melody Lewis said, Star Trek is political. I don't disagree. TNG was political. DS9 was very political. Voyager was political. They wrote politics. They wrote their message, but they had a story first. They didn't try to attack or put one segment down. I would suggest you watch the worst of that. The worst show I can think of when it comes to a message done horrifically would be Who Watches the Watchers. And I think it is 10 times what this show is. You should watch it. It's The Next Generation. Deep Space Nine had some wonderfully political views that they did wonderfully. Not that I agreed with them, but the views they did very wonderfully. They introduced homosexuality to a degree, at least for me. And they normalized it in Deep Space Nine. And if they had done it the way they did it here, they would have only polarized me, and I would have never watched another episode. This is horrific. I would suggest you watch this entire live stream if you care about actually getting our opinion and why it's bad and keeping an open mind. Something tells me you probably won't, but I encourage you to do that.
What did Renee say that I missed?
Not Renee, Mary Lewis.
Or Mary Lewis.
Melody Lewis said Star Trek is political. The Next Generation was political. Deep Space Nine was very political. Voyager was political. No one's saying they weren't political. They were just written better. With that, I think Michael's trying, or Anti-Trekker is trying to get me off of this show because he is probably hungry and very tired. So we are going to head out. Guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Tomorrow I will be doing the Prometheus ship, which is kind of interesting because it's the first warship that actually worked, and I didn't realize that until I started breaking it down. We will be doing the Charity with WizKids with Attack Wing Star Trek. I'm really excited for that, and I hope you guys stay tuned for that. But let me know what you guys think. Again, I will see you on the next. Michael, say it.
I hated this episode.